And of course, as always, we want everybody to know that whatever is discussed on the show is the opinion of our guests and don't necessarily reflect our official policy. Although I do have to say, if we say something, maybe it does reflect something for me and or myself. And so don't. Somebody says something bad or politically incorrect, don't hold us to them in perpetuity. Or if we say something politically incorrect, it's not our fault. To just post a question, and we've got some questions we've written down. But today is an open show and open forum, and we'll just run with it. And of course, thank you for joining us. And today we're going to try and sell you whatever we can sell you. What the heck?
But again, it's about consistency. I think that's the thing that McDonald's does well. And also, with the exception of lately when they try to be everything in a bag of chips, I think they got to stick with what works. But I think that's really what car dealers got to get down to. And the thing that's funny about car dealers, but also car manufacturers, is they're putting out these models. They don't even know what people are driving or buying, really. They kind of do, but I think when you look at Costco, you look at McDonald's, you look at Starbucks, it's not about 50 items. It's about what items make sense that we can then train people to execute on that then drives revenue. And I think that's one of the things Tesla, rightly or wrongly, has done well. A few models. You don't need 50 models, a few models. That's what we sell. You don't want to buy it, that's fine, right? You don't need
it's also interesting.
Everything.
My background at Carfax was handling dealer groups.
Yeah.
And I was always surprised because you think, like you guys talked about earlier, like the whole idea, if I'm going to buy 50 rooftops, is economy of scale at some level, right? And that's why AutoNation changed the names from Power Nissan. They were like, we can save $50,000 a year on business cards if everyone's just AutoNation Nissan instead of whatever it was.
Yeah, ABC Nissan.
But yet you go into groups and it's not the same experience. You're like, how is this possible that you have this huge, and it's just not AutoNation, but it's a lot. I dealt with all sorts of groups around the country, and I was a trainer for a little while, and I was shocked when I would go in, and I think somebody touched on it. You can feel that too. Like when you walk into a store that's well run, that people are happy.
Indeed.
In the sales environment, you can feel that. And I worked for one that was really interesting. I worked for a store that the GM came up from the service side, and it was such a different experience as a salesperson because he didn't have that mentality of I'm gonna get a $5,000 whatever, like I'm gonna crush it on every customer. He really had a much more customer oriented, and you could feel that right down at the sales level. Yeah.
And I think it's possible. I think it's just challenging because when you look at, like, I had the opportunity to work with Hedrick Automotive. I had the opportunity to work with a bunch of other big US groups. What I think is possible is if you have a structure and it's not optional. Like to me, and it was funny. I remember I was running this Kia store and I wanted all the salesmen to be there at 5 to 9 so we could have a meeting before the shift. And basically this one salesman was always late. So then I said to him, I said, okay, when you're late tomorrow, because for some reason you can't make it, get everyone breakfast. Figuring I'd teach him, to show up on time. After a week of him getting everyone breakfast, I'm like, dude, like your new job isn't to buy everyone breakfast every day. But he just didn't, the wheels weren't turning. It was like.
You know what I used to do when salespeople were late? I tell them the first time free. And I mean, you know what, if it's because literally they honestly had a flat tire, got a ticket, it didn't matter. First time they were late without it, they were free. Second time they had to sing.
Yeah,
Rarely were they late twice.
Sing or tell a joke. Yep.
Yeah. No joke. No, sing because you can tell a joke. But singing was you stand in front of everybody and go, somewhere over.
But some of them might actually enjoy singing. Then you'd have a problem.
No, what I was gonna comment, Ian, on, and I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but in Alberta, 5 years ago, the Home Depot franchises sucked. They were absolutely terrible. You could never find anyone. They were always grumpy. They were just terrible. And then somebody got in there, and I don't know what they did at what level, but they have fixed them. And it's an actual joy to go into a Home Depot. I was in one yesterday, and the lady was helpful. She's telling me, hey, well, I was buying some tile. She's like, take a picture of this, so when you get to front reception, or to the front till, they'll know what to do. Tell them this and this and this. But like they were just so helpful, and walking you to the aisle. Not, I think that's in 17 by the ladders. They walk you down there. They're doing all the best practices now. So it's interesting that, and I don't know what there is in Alberta for Home Depot. Say there's 50 of them, but they've done a great job of actually turning that ship on a large scale and actually fixing it. So
Well,
I
it's
think
I think
It's
they
all
went to
doable.
Disney.
it's fixable.
Could've.
You
I
just
think
have to
that-
commit to it and do it long term. That's all you got to do.
I
Commit.
think that's the problem that we all have in this. Like, I love the car business. I love
Right.
buying cars, selling cars. And that's what's so frustrating. It's like, it could be so much better. It doesn't have to be like this. I don't know why we have done this to ourselves, but like, that's what I think. It's funny. Like, I'm sure if somebody's listening to this, they're like, man, these guys freaking hate car dealers. But I think that's why we all are like this, is because, you know, it sounds like each one of you have done something different than the norm and tried to make your dealership better and different. And that's why it's frustrating.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I couldn't agree with you more, because I don't think anybody here doesn't love this business. And, you know, this is sort of like the dog that always pees on the carpet. You can't get him to stop. You don't shoot him. Maybe in Texas you do, but you know, you still love them, and you find a way around it. And the thing in the car business is we know how to make it better, and sometimes we just get so frustrated at trying to make change, because again, the other way works.
Yeah.
And one day it won't. And I mean, this is a 75, 80-year-old business model, maybe even longer, back to actually probably about 100 now.
More than
And,
100.
Yeah. And
Well, 'cause they were selling wagons before, right?
There are dealers in the U.S. market, I think even some in Canada, that have been in business over 100 years.
Hmm.
And some of them started selling cars when they sold horses and buggies as a side business. They weren't sure if it was going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge in Canada versus the States is we have such a higher penetration of dealers per capita than in the States. We've talked about this. We had Rob Ruth on, who's coming on in a couple of weeks too. And there's this little dinky dealership between, 100 miles in each direction from two major cities. And there, what's the population of his town there, Ian? Like 1,400 people or something?
It might be bigger than that, but he sells like 300, 400 rides a month.
Yeah. And there isn't a dealer in Canada. Well, there might be one or two that do 400 a month. And we're talking in cities of 5 million people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing about him, and what's interesting, is that he draws from different markets, but I think he also takes the effort to stand apart. And a lot of the dealers in these big urban markets, there's lots of competitors, but they're not really taking that same effort, right? Like
It's funny when you go on his website and look at the pictures, like that building is old.
Oh yeah.
He hasn't built some flagship and put a 400-foot flag in the ground and hey, this is where we are. Like, he's running out of an old building. He's got to be making
Hold
money
on a
hand
minute.
over fist.
Hold on a minute. And I apologize in advance, Stephen. In the US, if you put up a flag, that's worth 20 cars a month.
And then every 20 feet is another car.
And then the big purple gorilla, you get at
Right.
least
Oh yeah.
6 more.
Or these guys at the front driveway.
What's funny, when I was a trainer at Carfax, we would bang on that. And then I saw a study that somebody did about the gorilla.
Yeah.
And it really, the study showed that they actually did sell more cars when they had a stupid thing on top of their building.
Yeah.
Have you